So here we are again. I appear to be live in all sorts of places. Yay! Hey Nina, nice to see you. Okay, so I am live on TikTok where there's always lots of fun distraction, and Instagram, and of course via StreamYard on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And I hope to see your comments tonight. You never know with StreamYard. Sometimes you can see them and sometimes you can't, but it's all good. So there we go. LinkedIn tells me I'm live. Yay. So my title tonight, the question is, are you special? It's an interesting question, and I'm going to give you spoilers right now and tell you that I'm going to talk about various uh, mystical traditions, and I'm going to explain that in a minute. And the answer is yes and no. There you go. There's always interesting questions and interesting answers. So, anyway, I should introduce myself in case you haven't seen me before. My name is Hadass. I am a life coach. I am a well-being advocate. I am interested in health. I'm interested in marketing. I'm interested in spiritual stuff. As I get older, my birthday's this week. Yay! I'm going to be 61, and which is kind of mind blowing. Nice wig, I love it. Um, like I said, TikTok's always interesting. Um, it's not. Anyway, whatever. So I'm going to be 61 this week, and as we get older, sometimes we get more interested in this stuff. So, it's going to talk about, are we special? Like, are you special? Am I special? Are we all special? So I'm just going to pull something up here. So just so I make sure that I don't miss any of my points that I wanted to talk about. And I am looking forward to actual meaningful feedback with TikTok. You, you take what you can get. So here's the thing: is that I have been doing some studying, and I've been bringing in things like Zen. And last week I talked about this book called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. Of course, the book's not in my office because still reading it, but I did actually get hold of it, and it is just as awesome as I thought it was going to be. And it's it's uh, it's fascinating about this guy. So I can pronounce his name correctly. Always interesting. Shunryu Suzuki. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. If I'm not, hopefully somebody will correct me. And he was a Japanese Zen master who came to the United States in like 1957, and he was there for about 12 years, and then he got cancer and died, unfortunately. But he did establish the first Zen centers in the United States, and I'm guessing those were the first ones in North America. There's not really anything about Canada in this book, but that's not surprising. And so this guy, so there's this book called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, which was published after his passing by his disciples, and it's basically edited version of talks that he gave after they had sat in the in the Zendo. So it's interesting because, of course, he's adapted it to Americans, and so it's fascinating. But I found it really interesting because a lot of the things that he talks about, and of course, it's Buddhism, which is different from most of the Western religions in that it doesn't have a personal God, which once I read that, I really understood why so many Jewish people love Buddhism, and why, especially like in the 60s and 70s, there were so many what they call Jubus, people who could no longer believe in a personal God, especially after the Holocaust and so on. And then but they found that this was something that they could work with because it's possible to have a good and holy and focused life without a personal deity. So that was something that I was looking into. And what was really interesting is that I've also been looking. There's this Christian metaphysical text called Course in Miracles, which I've been hearing about forever, and I've been reading it. It's slow going, but it was basically again this American psychologist in the 1970s who was got all these I don't know downloads from. She said it was from Jesus. Who am I to say it wasn't? But she's a Christian, so whatever was talking to her would be talking in her language. You know, the Talmud says that the Torah speaks in the language of the people. So in this case also, so it's a very Christian book. But what I find really fascinating that two of my favorite interpreters of this book are Jewish women, Gabrielle Bernstein and of course Marianne Williamson, who wrote A Return to Love in the early 1990s. And of course, it was picked up by Oprah, and so it became a huge thing. And um, and it's an interesting interpretation because, again, she's not a Christian, but she is very attracted by a lot of the concepts in there. I mean, basically, the idea that there's basically either love or fear in our lives. I mean, that can be a really, really useful concept for if we want to work on it. So, an idea is that if you follow love, you can dispose with fear, and who doesn't want to do that? I mean, fear is really not something that we love. I'm just going to go back to StreamYard just for a minute. Okay. Um, I'm just going to look back at my notes. So I was looking at these three texts, which you would think would be very different. So it's like there's A Course in Miracles, which is very Christian, and this book, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, which is, of course, Zen as filtered through uh, the lens of the American disciples of this Japanese man. And he actually liked working with Americans, but like working with Japanese people because they really had beginner's mind. They had no idea. They had no preconceived ideas about Buddhism. They knew nothing about it. And so they came to him completely open minded, and he was able to teach them the things that he was wanted to. So he really loved them. And it kind of comes through how much he loves his students there. And that's really wonderful. I recommend everybody to come out with the 50th anniversary edition, and it's really awesome. So anyway, so there's these three books. There's A Course in Miracles, and which is about 50 years old. There's Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, which is also about 50 years old. And again, these are interpretations of concepts, which are obviously much older. And then I was looking in the Talmud. Obviously, the Talmud is a very large book, but I was looking specifically at Sanhedrin 4:5, which has some really interesting commentary in there. And basically, they say all sorts of things. The Talmud is always digresses. But I find it really, really interesting what they say there, which is I just want to make sure I quote it correctly. Um, I said that when an earthly sovereign mints coins with their image on it, they all look the same, which is, yeah, if you've got a mint and you're, print, minting coins. I mean, they're mostly going to look the same. Every now and then there'll be some error or something, and then they become very rare and valuable. But generally speaking, coins which have, the queen on them are all going to look the same. But when the divine, or as they say, the King of Kings, because that's the language that they use, uh, when the divine creates humans, they're all made in the image of God. They're all made just like Adam and Eve in the image of the divine. It's what it says right there in the Torah. Humans are made in the image of the divine, but they're all different, like snowflakes. Supposedly, two snowflakes are alike. And the truth is that there's like 8 billion people on this planet, and unless they're identical twins, No two people are exactly alike. And even identical twins, they may be genetically identical, but as they go through their lives, they change. They're no longer the same. They might even come out of the womb with different experiences of hormones or whatever and already be different. So, really, identical twins alive aside, no two humans are the same. And if you think about it, that is actually pretty amazing. And so, yeah, in that sense, we are special. We are different. We are all unique. Every human is different from every other human. And I love what Rabbi Arthur Green says about that. He's one of the leaders of the Neo-Hasidic movement, and I've been reading his books for the last couple of years and really thinking about them and having a good time with them. Like he imagines, so he's really helpful to me, I have to say, because what happened to him, this is just an aside, and then I'll tell you what he said. What happened to him is that his mother passed away when he was, I think, 11, something like that, very tragic, from cancer. And then he went through a very orthodox phase, as happens, and very much against the will of his father, who was a militant atheist. And and then he went to university, and then he like had a huge crisis of faith, and he realized that he really could not believe in the old man with the beard in the sky. And so he thought he was going to lose all of his connection to spirituality, to Judaism, to having any sort of connection with the divine. And then he discovered mysticism, and he became an expert on Kabbalah, on mysticism, on the Hasidic masters who sort of brought the mysticism back into the Jewish mainstream after it was kind of pushed under the rug because it was kind of embarrassing. And one of the teachers that he quotes is a guy who's known as the Sfat Emet. There's this weird a tradition of referring to rabbis by the names of their books. It's very weird. So, anyways, this guy, Rabbi Yehuda Aryeh Leib Alter, he lived in Poland in, I don't know, sometime in the 18th century. No, 19th century must have been, because the Russian-Japanese War was part of his life. And I know my grandfather fought in that, the end of the 19th century. So anyway, so he was the leader of a certain Hasidic sect called Ger. They exist to this day. And he wrote this book called the Sfat Emet, and so people call him that. And he says, I've been reading, so Rabbi Arthur Green made a modern translation / interpretation of the Sfat Emet of Rabbi Alter's book, so that modern people can read it. And he keeps repeating it, like he, again, kind of like actually that Zen book. Yes, actually, it's really interesting. The Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, is a compilation of the lectures of this guy Suzuki Roshi, and the Sfat Emet is a compilation of talks given by Rabbi Yehuda Aryeh Leib Alter. So it's really interesting. They're very similar in that respect. And it just goes to show that people in different traditions, they do the same kind of thing. They listen to their leader, whether he's a rabbi or a guru, and then they collect all of his things that he said, and then they publish them so that people can still learn it after the person dies. So it's very interesting. So anyway, so the Sfat Emet teaches that every human being has what he calls an inner point, nikuda pnimit. His things were in Hebrew, but this book is in English. So the inner point, which is a point of connection with the divine. So if you've ever like seen a beautiful mountain or even a gorgeous rainbow, or had any sort of, you get this feeling like your heart's going to burst and you embrace the whole world. So he said that was your inner point, that was your connection with the divine. And it's what I like to call a silver spark. If you saw videos that I made talking about silver sparks, and that's why also I've called my whole thing Silver Spark, my blog and my YouTube channel and so on, is because the whole idea is that there are sparks out there in the world, and it has to do with a Kabbalistic story that I'll tell you another time, because time's moving on here. But the idea is that we have that connection, and if you've ever had, you had to make an important decision, and if you stopped and listened to yourself long enough, you will get, you just got this feeling, this intuition, this knowing, this, who knows where it comes from? Like, we don't know, does it come from the outside? Does it come from the inside? Is it is it a completely an illusion? Who knows? The fact remains that we do get these downloads, if you will. We get these sensations, and you have to kind of clear your mind in a Zen kind of way. If you sit in Zazen, you are more likely to get this kind of download than if you're constantly rushing and running around. So meditation is a good thing in pretty much any tradition that I've seen. And it's, whoop, oh no, hopefully, right, yeah, hopefully my audio is still working in Instagram, because I just got a text. I forgot, let me just do that. Do not disturb. I forgot about it. Do not disturb. Sorry about that, people. Hopefully you can still hear me. If you are listening on Instagram, and you can, or indeed on TikTok, because it affected both of my phones, if you can still hear me, please let me know. If not, oh well, sorry. You will be able to pick this up on YouTube later, and on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. So, back to the Sfat-Emet. The Sfat-Emet, as I said, he teaches about that inner point. It's just a nice way of calling it. The Talmud calls it your svara, your intuition, your knowing. And so that's how it's called in our tradition. In Zen, there's also this connection, this oneness. And I just absolutely love, I have to tell you about this description that Shamir Suzuki Roshi, how he an image that he describes in his book, and he said that he visited Yosemite, and he saw this huge waterfall, like 1,400 feet tall. Can you imagine? Big waterfall. And he saw that the drops. Okay, so there's a river at the top, and it's just a river, like it's water. You can't tell the individual drops, but as it was coming down the rock face, he said it looked like a curtain, because it looked like the individual drops were each finding their own way down the rock face. And he was thinking how hard it was for them, and how, what a long way down it was for them, and how slowly they appeared to be going because of the just the height of the waterfall. And it seemed to him that it was an image like our life, right? That, at the top of the mountain, there was just a river, and none of the drops had their own identity. They were just part of the river. And then coming down the waterfall, it appeared like they did. They were all separate. And then at the bottom, they merged again. So I just thought this was a great image. And he's talking about how, before our human life, we're just part of the river. And then afterwards, we're just part of the river. And the water's coming down the waterfall, it appears to be all separate. And the thing is that I have no idea whether this is true or not. So, I mean, I'm not here to tell you the answers to all of these big questions that we all have. But the fact is that these completely different traditions come up with the same sort of ideas, whether it's the Sfat-Emet with his internal point, or a Zen master talking about individual water drops that are one, and then they're individual, and then they're one again. It's like humans everywhere are coming to similar conclusions about how we can see. Now, a lot of people like the personal thing, and that's totally fine. Dualism is very big, especially in the West. And I'm not going to tell you what to think. I'm not going to tell you what to feel. But the fact remains is that there are a lot of people out there who don't do well with the kind of personal idea. And I know my friend Ray has been talking about you should use God and not the universe, because what can you relate to more, person or a place some of us don't do well with an old man in the sky. That's just how it is. And so then the question is, what can we do? And that's a whole different conversation. Like my teacher, Rabbi B'nai Lappe, has an amazing talk called the Crash Talk, in which she talks about this. So, and again, it explains why so many Jews are attracted to Buddhism. But anyway, as time moves on here, and I've been going for a while, so I don't want to make this too long, but I just wanted to share these thoughts with you, these ideas about, are we special? So did I give you an answer? No, not really. On the one hand, the tradition says that we are snowflakes. And whether it's, again, while you're talking about the Talmud, or whether you're talking about Zen, they all seem to have the idea that, yeah, we have this sense of our ego and of our being separate people. And we are. Even Zen doesn't think that's an illusion. We are. But on the other hand, we are also all connected and all one. And that is why, as I was saying, that's why mysticism is part of the deal. And that's why we say the answer is yes and no. So I would love to know what you think of this. I would love to see your comments. Now on TikTok, the comments will go away when the live is over. So if you do want to give any thoughts about that, you can send me a message on, probably not on TikTok unless we're friends there, but you can go to one of my other social media. I have 12 million zillion social media. You can find me on, if you go to my bio on TikTok, and actually also on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of them, you can find my link tree there, the link in my bio, and then it'll take you to all my other places. So I'm sure you can find some way to interact with me if you would like, because I would love to hear what you think. So if you have thoughts on this, if you think I'm talking complete nonsense, that is okay too. That's, that would be an interesting conversation. So I would love to hear from you. You can drop me a message. Like I said, if you're on a place where that's not really convenient, then feel free to go to the link in my bio and find somewhere that you can message me. I know you can do it. I have faith in you. So that's it for tonight. Remember, I love you. If you like this kind of thing, and you would like it in written form, then I do have a Substack and a blog. So again, you can find the link in my bio, and that will take you to all of my things, including you can get my Substack on a weekly basis, and then you can read the things that I talk about on Sunday night. So you have a great evening. Remember, I love you, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye. And broadcast.